Creatives commentating on the culture they live in. Welcome to Culture Nerd, the most culturally relevant nerd culture podcast that's ever existed. Joe, the ad-lib alien here with Javi.
The Bodhi Yogi.
Yo, and Mac is so missed for this episode, but on his behalf, I'll say remember to rate, review, and subscribe. Culture Nerds across podcasts. The link is in the description. Let's get started. Javi, what's up? How was your week?
I've had a pretty darn good week, if I do say so myself.
Oh, that's good to hear.
Heck yeah. I had a new friend hit me up basically saying, like, thank you for your advice. It's really helping me, and she's doing better with her mental health. So I'm rooting for her. Keep going. I have been hanging out with friends, and right before this, I attended a virtual wedding.
Virtual weddings. It's the virtual year. Hey, nobody can go anywhere.
I tried to look presentable because, it was a wedding still. So I have my nice little cardigan.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, yeah, this is the nice one.
Okay. Well, that's why I was surprised when you were like, are we going to do this video? Because you're looking all right, and you just went to a virtual wedding, so I wouldn't see why you wouldn't be cool with just putting it out.
I know. I think it's the frizz. I'm like,
it's the frizz.
I need to not look at myself. How about that? Let's just. I'm just gonna look at you. No, but it's been a pretty good week. What about you?
Homeowner shit. Trying to get projects done around the house. And as I told you earlier, I think I've beaten my nemesis, the yellow jacket. I've filled in all the crevices. So I don't know, maybe they won't come back. But I know we got a couple of people out there that are our day ones. So I wanted to speak to them specifically. And say, I know you guys are probably noticing a change in the format and how we're kind of doing the show. And it might seem sudden, but we're trying something new, and it's fun to try new things. So don't be, thrown off. Still the same nerd, still the same show. We're just giving it a little bit more structure. All right, so this week I heard the show Dexter is apparently coming back for some final limited run or something like that. And that got me thinking, do you care? Was Dexter ever a show for you that you were just yeah, I watched this religiously, this is my show?
You know what? The premise of the show is very interesting. I started watching it. I think I only got through season 1, and it was entertaining, and yet at the same time, I'm like, this is so creepy stuff that I'm watching right now. I don't know how comfortable. What does it say about me enjoying watching this? And sorry for everyone that's a fan. I'm not judging. I swear. But it was just one of those, I don't think I could handle the, his way of doing things. It was just a little too dark, I think.
It was a little too real.
But yeah, I just couldn't handle it. And I was like, yeah, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Weirdly, I guess Dexter is an enemy of the pod because, I also don't necessarily like Dexter like that. That's why when I even wrote it down, I was like, do you even care that Dexter's coming back?
Yeah.
But it really got me thinking about, what shows I would want to come back. I didn't realize that. I knew Dexter had its fans, and Dexter had its, its following, and I was sure that it was a fairly big following, but I didn't know it was as big a following that, you'd see something like Dexter coming back for another season.
Yeah.
It wasn't even just that it was coming back for another season. It really popped, like it became like one of the trending topics. People fucking love Dexter.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think I probably only watched one episode.
Yeah.
Which is like, I usually give myself like a 3-episode quota on like a show.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's like nothing in those 3 episodes that like catches me, I'm sorry. I can't.
Yeah.
But I don't think I gave Dexter the full like 3 episodes. I gave it like, I think like a 1, and I was like, I don't know. He seems weird. I'm not a fan.
It is really twisted. I mean, I forget what season I jumped back in while it was still on the air. And he was in a relationship or something like that. And I think the woman had a kid from like a previous relationship. So I don't remember the storyline. All I remember is like, what? You're still doing all this crazy stuff and you have a family now? You like have a relationship? It was just
Yeah. I remember. I just by like osmosis, I heard little things like that where he's like, oh, he's got a girlfriend now, and he's like, I think he had a kid, or at least I heard. I think he had a kid in some plot line, but again, no fact checkers on this podcast. But yeah, it seemed really weird. I think it was interesting morally to be like, would we be okay with a serial killer that kills serial killers? Like, really, what's the moral thing on that? Like, am I upset with him or not? I don't think I am.
a good one.
What?
That's a good one. No, that's a good question, right? Because it's like he's doing a good thing, quote unquote, but it's still the same thing that he's ridding these people for torture and killing. So it's a very
It's like he found a way to use his twisted want for like kind of something good.
Yeah.
But it's the whole thing of like, does the ends justify the means? Where it's like, I don't know if you're supposed to be killing people just because they're killing people. And here we go. We get into like the whole, death penalty debate and all that kind of other stuff. So it's all connected. You know what I mean? We're just in society, seeping in it, in all this culture and all this. All right, I'm going to stop. That was super unnecessary. I'm not going to spoken word all over this podcast.
But I was following along. I was like, I don't know where he's taking me, but I'm gonna go.
Third eye, you know what I mean? Third eye. You gotta open it up.
Okay.
I guess, what show would you wish kind of got a little bit more of a run, or you wish like would come back?
That's a good one. I don't have any shows off the top of my head. I feel like I think I've said this before, but like once something's over, it's kind of like erases out of my mind, and it's just like, all right, moving on.
Oh yeah, no, I do that too. It's very rare that I like revisit a series or even a movie outside of like a decade later. I might go, oh, maybe I feel like I forgot enough about this movie to kind of rewatch it. I don't really have that a lot of people have, where it's like, oh, I'm just watching the same show over and over and over again. My daughter's actually like that. She watches Carmen Sandiego on Netflix.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Yes, I do.
Oh my God. I love the way that lit you up. I want to make that like the topic for the next episode. It's crazy. You're so happy about that. So she's watching that, and she'll watch it like over and over and over and over again. But I just like, once I like see the twists and turns, like I can't really watch it again until I take a break from it and like come back and go like, Oh, that's how that happened. Okay, cool. Like, interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I can't think of a show that I'm like, I want to revisit it because I feel like once shows have been on for a while, they try to expand to like really show you who the characters are. And sometimes it's hit or miss. And when they get it, it's like, you know what you showed me was great enough. We don't need to go back. We don't need to
Yeah.
redo. We don't need to add on. And then
Okay.
other shows, it's like, oh, you were so good until you tried to like really show who these characters are, and now
Yeah.
I'm bored. Like you didn't do a good job. And like I feel bad saying that because I don't know what it's like to be a writer in those writer rooms, but it's like, you know what I mean, right? Like
Yeah.
you've seen certain shows where you're like, yo, twist, turn, what? Gotta tune in. And then like season 3 rolls around or season 4 and you're like, what the heck did this just turn into? Like this
Yeah.
is not what I thought I was investing my time. Like,
Yeah.
what is this?
I think I took a break from like Game of Thrones for a little bit and then like came back in like season 5. I had watched the whole thing, but I'd taken a break before I started season 5. And then I started season 5, and season 5 is just the slowest goddamn thing. I found myself like falling asleep several times, and it was just like, this is not good.
No.
You're not supposed to be falling asleep during this. What show would you say had the biggest decline in terms of like almost like the Matrix? You know how like the first Matrix is absolutely fantastic? You know what I mean? Where you're just like, there's no way they could have made this movie any better.
Mm-hmm.
And then you see the second film in the trilogy and you're like, what happened? You know, it's just like this huge decline. So what show, I know specifically what show, and if you need a moment, I can absolutely talk about it.
Go for it.
But the show I thought had a super duper decline was it was Prison Break. I don't know if you remember this show, but it was a beautiful premise where it was these two brothers. One of them falsely accused was sent to jail, and then his other brother, like, he's this super genius with engineering degrees and blah blahs, and he goes and tattoos the blueprints of the prison onto his body, and then commits a crime. So he falls into the same prison that his brother's in. And then you see him throughout the first season, like, figure out how to break out, who he needs to make alliances with, all this kind of other stuff to make the prison break viable, right?
Yeah.
And then I'm going to be honest, they blew their load way too quickly. Because by the end of season 1, they had broken out of the prison. And I was like, you can't, oh, no, you can't. It was too fast. Because I'll tell season 1 of Prison Break, grade A television. You should watch it. Don't watch past that. You shouldn't. It's just not worth it. Season 2 came around and I went, man, what happened? It was it was a plummet. And like, at the time I stood with it because I was, young and had a ton of time and could watch a ton of television. But looking back on it, yeah, I should have stopped watching after season 1 for sure.
I know. There are a few that have crossed my mind while you were talking. I feel like Arrow was one, like I was really into it. And then after a while, it was like, all right, this is same old, same old. Okay.
Okay, when did you drop off of Arrow?
I can't even remember. Let's say at least season 3.
Season 3?
Let's say.
Okay.
It was around there, and it was so sad. I was like binging it, and I was like, ugh, like I'm into it. I forgot how much I enjoyed superhero storylines and like the whole universe. I was like, oh, memories. And then I was like, what is it? It was because you know what bothers me or what's my thing. It's like I don't mind the whole fantasy of it. That's what I love. That's why I'm in it. But it's when it just becomes a little too far fetched, or they don't know how to tie things in a way where you can stay believing that such things can happen. It's just like, why are you upgrading this or changing?
Okay. All right. Low key. Here's my, and this is super stupid because as a parent, right, I used to have to watch kid shows. And Arrow and like Supergirl and all that kind of other stuff became this thing where I could watch it with my daughter and it wasn't like offensive or like anything else. And it was relatively entertaining. So like I keep in rotation some, you know, some PG-13s or like some shows that don't really like go crazy just to be able to watch with her.
I imagine that's slightly difficult because the shows are either really cheesy or too adult. There's rarely that nice in between where it's like, I'm an adult and I can have my kid watch this and I still enjoy it.
Yeah, for sure. There's not a ton of that. I guess if you had to be cast in a movie, what would be the movie and who would you play as? Like, what would be the character that you'd play? Like,
I would have liked I would like to do the Hunger Games, and I'll be I would be Katniss.
Main character.
Just because it's so like filled with action and like that idea, it's always fascinated me ever since I started watching like behind the scenes of like how movies are made. The dedication and the training that actors get to try and pull something off. And that's always fascinated me, like how people have to train their minds and change in a way in order to be able to do the stuff on screen. And it's just such an entertaining storyline. Like when I read the book, I was like, yo, I'm hooked. When I had my sister's friend, she suggested it. She's like, hey, if you're looking for a new book to read, Hunger Games, it's a young adult's book, but you know, based on what you told me, you might like it. And at first I was like, okay, whatever. And I read it and I was hooked. So all that action, all that like suspense, like what's the mission? How am I gonna achieve this? That concept and storyline fascinates me.
What do you feel like is the biggest difference maybe between the character Katniss and who you are right now, let's say?
Oh, why we getting so deep already?
Cause, you know, we out here exploring, learning shit and being ignorant all at the same time.
You know what? I'm here for it. Okay. I think the difference is that she's such a risk taker. Like she's the type of person that's like, this is what I want. This is it. This is what my gut is telling me. So this is what I'm going to do. It's that bravery, that courage, that thing that I am learning to cultivate right now. Mine comes in whisper, where she's more of a roar.
I get that. Yeah. I for sure get that. I've definitely had that. You know, I live in my own movie, like I'm the main character kind of thing. I for sure.
Aren't we all?
Oh yeah, for sure. we're all doing that constantly. We like just having a simple box to put people in, and to really like even ourselves. Like, I know, people put us in boxes, but even we put ourselves in boxes in the sense of like, we think, oh, this is the only type of person that we can be. I mean, who would I want to be? I mean, I've always wanted to sort of be like the real ladies' man. So like, I guess for lack of a better choice, I would say like a Ryan Gosling and like a Notebook type thing. If we're gonna go like main character type shit, you know what I mean? Like, I'm talking about like crazy dude. Like, man, my guy's hanging off a Ferris wheel while you're on a date with another dude. That's some savage shit right there. Like, that's wild disrespectful. That dude should have punched him in his face. Like, he should have punched him in his face for real. The way that we grew up as storytellers, as people who like jump in and out of fictional characters, like, do you think that limits us, or that limits society to like catch the full understanding of what a person is? Or do you feel like it's a gateway to, I don't know, that emotional connection that a lot of people can have?
If I'm understanding the question, does either being storytellers or watching storytellers in this fictional world, does it hinder us from seeing someone's true self?
Yeah. Like, does the idolization of certain fictional characters, the 2 or 3 dimensional, box that we put them in, does that limit us, or does it open us up more? Do you feel like?
I feel like my first instinct is to say it restricts us, but at the same time, it depends on the person viewing, right? Because it's like, it ruins us in the sense of, if you idolize this fictional character or whatever it is that you saw them do, whether it's the TV show or the movie, it's almost like you believe this character to be that you admire. And the way that I like to view it is, if this were a real person, this is who they had to be in this moment in time. That doesn't mean that that's who they are consistently if they were real. So I don't know if that makes sense.
But isn't that what we do though? Like, isn't that what, when we relate to a character, we relate to such a very specific, such a very specific moment in their existence.
Yeah, and that's what keeps us from being able to see the whole person. And I feel like when there are shows that start writing in how a different aspect of a character, the audience sometimes has trouble, because it's like, why are you showing me this aspect of this person? Like, no, that's not who they are. And it's like, yeah, but this other part of their personality is them, because they are a whole person. Do you know what I mean? It's just like, so in that way, I feel like it does ruin us, because we stay so focused on this one thing that we admire, that we relate to them with, instead of being able to relate with them and yet see them as a whole person with the things that we also don't like.
Yeah. So we forget that it's messy, that it's sure we have that one moment, but like, I don't know, a lot of people are capable of a lot of different things, and like, they can't always be boxed in.
Yeah.
Man,
what do you think?
I mean, being sort of like a latchkey kid who grew up a lot on TV and like the characters that they portrayed on TV and like how they portrayed emotion and these sort of like life experiences having to happen.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure it's given me the best, or I'll take that back. I guess the most realistic view on interacting with people.
Mm-hmm.
But on the positive side, I feel like it's given me this sort of moral standing that maybe I didn't get from, like, let's say like a church or some kind of other spiritual practice or something like that, where it's like I would see characters and it would be like, their integrity or their honesty, like I want to honor that. I want to like model that for myself.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it also had this very like restricted view of what, and also like, who's giving me that view, who's giving me that structure of like, what is honor, what is morality, what is all of this, all of these things that I'm sort of equating to these characters. I don't know. I think it's important. Like it's one of those things where, that's where representation really comes in, where it's like you have these characters that you can really go like, oh, okay, I can relate to this character in a very specific way. And that's very positive. But I think like we can't let ourselves stay, I don't know, I guess closed off to evolving that image, to changing the way that those values and morals get represented in the world. I don't know, like much like everything else, it seems like a real balance. And it's, oh man, there's not a whole ton of guidance a lot of the time in where to find that balance. So it's, and I worry because I wonder, I was a latchkey kid, so I was raised kind of on TV.
Yeah.
And so like, I guess I don't feel super bad when like my daughter is like, on the, on her phone or, just watching Netflix or whatever else. But I know screen time is not great. You know what I mean? Like I know the exposures to these shows, and I can see like the effect that it has on her emotion, stuff like that. So I don't know. I guess I kind of feel bad, but I also have this thing as a parent where I'm just like, it kind of turned out okay. It wasn't like, I'm not like a horrible person, but
no, you're not.
What's the ideal? Like, what makes that good person? Is it just limiting certain things, having that kind of discipline, or is it just, I feel like everyone has that differing balance.
Now, my question is, whichever character or characters it was that you idolized, and you're like, oh, that's something I want to imitate and do in my life. If the writers had written in like the not so good side about this character, would you still feel the same?
Yeah, weirdly, because like I know a ton of people don't always think about it, but like I find the characters that I relate to the most are characters that I can kind of see behind their initial representation. You know what I mean? Where like I can see that they're going with that representation of themselves because of some other thing, like some other damage or some other I don't know, insecurity or whatever it is, it comes, like, I can see their motivation a little bit. So it becomes this thing where it's, even if the writers, for me, it's different. I feel like for like a regular audience member, they don't necessarily see that, but like that's kind of what I see when I see like a good writer, is like someone writes something that seems benign, something that seems so ordinary, but like has such an impact because it like relates to all of us in just this like really deep way. I guess the best example that I can think of is my friend Alex made this song where it was like Long Ride Home. And his premise for the song was, you know, a couple got into a fight and they're driving home. And it's just that, like, we got into the car, we're getting home kind of thing, and you're upset with me. And it's like, everyone knows what that like kind of feels like. Everyone knows what that, it really does feel like a long ride back, where it's like, oh man, this is like like those 5 minutes could seem like forever when you're in a weird, awkward situation. And I told him, I was like, man, that was one of the best songs you've made, just because I could tell it was so personal, but it was so universal at the same time. And I always relate to characters that, because I know what motivates me to do, you know, to pursue something or to like seek revenge or anything like that. Like, I know what kind of pushes me. So when I see a character that's being essentially pushed by the same thing, I'm like, yeah, I understand. Like, I see why that's the case. So no, I don't think I'd be like super, I mean, I don't know, maybe I would be super surprised by what the writer said the motivation is. But that's what I think art can do, and what I think it's supposed to do. It's supposed to like connect to some kind of real personal event, and then like you get your own interpretation and your own meaning and your own purpose from it.
Oh my God, 2 seconds, right? So on that same note, but in the music area, I was watching Song Explorer, and they did an episode. I don't know if do you know about Song Explorer?
I am not familiar, but please.
Oh my God.
Let me know.
Check it out. This is not a plug. We're not getting paid by them.
No ad breaks.
No ad breaks. This podcast, ever since a friend told me about it, I've been fascinated, and Netflix picked it up, and now it's like a little mini series.
Yeah.
And so the whole premise of the show, I'll so get to it, is just like interviewing artists and then breaking down one of their most famous songs, and like, what was your thought process here? How did you get this down? Blah, 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 blah. What are the instruments? Blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so they're interviewing R.E.M., and one of the band members, he was just like, I forget how it was phrased, but it was just like, well, what's your meaning or interpretation of this song? And he's like, that's not my job. It was along those lines of like, I know what meaning I believe this song has, but it's not, I don't have to tell you. Like, I'm not going to tell you. You need to make that decision for yourself based on how you interpret the art. Now, of course, I didn't say it verbatim, but I was just like, yeah, to me, that's like a real artist, where it's just like, listen, I know what intention I had in creating this, but you can take away whatever you want. We don't have to discuss it. It's art. It's your opinion. It is what it is. And I was just like,
yeah.
It was more like a reminder of,
You're right. I actually just had this discussion with my girl, my wife, my lady, and she was telling me, "Oh, architecture is, you know, it's an art," and I'm like, I don't know. And she was telling me that was like, yeah, but they have the vision, and I was like, "Ah, is that what we're gonna say is art? Is just how like having the vision? Because like you could have the vision and be unable to execute. I don't know. I have a hard time thinking of architecture as art. Okay, what is your line for like what is art? I feel like this is a conversation for a completely other episode, but like
we're on such a good roll.
yeah, I just think like uh for me it feels like I don't know, like when it's a logical thing where it's like, oh, we're gonna use this building for like offices or like shelter or like whatever else. It's like, yeah, we of course we need that. Art has this sort of beautiful of like, do we need this? Is anyone better off because of this? Objectively, no. But spiritually, in our souls, in like what we love about ourselves, yeah, it feels good. I like it, and it helps me feel not alone. And it's like I don't know when when I'm staring at like a building, it doesn't. I guess the average of how many buildings I stare at and go, "Wow, man, that's amazing." And then how many buildings I'm like, "Oh my god, that's nothing. It's just another house." Or like whatever else. You know what I mean? Like it's I don't know, prove me wrong. What's your let's say line for what constitutes art and non-art?
I don't know if I have a line. There are things that I'm like, really? I read that. Okay. You know what? If you want a red circle on your canvas, then a red circle it is. You know, it's in a museum. They thought it was great. Yeah. So who am I? Right? Who am I to say no?
Well, that's just it. Is like this is why I have you on the show, because you have a very amazing open mind, and I'm over here being judgmental and ignorant. But honestly, like I want someone to be like, no, here's the history. Here's why it's called colonialism, and but
well, you heard it here first, listeners.
Yeah,
if you are or know of an architect that agrees with me and Reina, please send them our way, and we will coordinate a time and date to talk to them to school Joe.
Yeah, so you can make me look absolutely ridiculous on my own show.
I don't want you. Hey, our show.
Oh God! Look at me being reprimanded on air. She's a savage. I don't know what to tell you.
No, it's not about making you look ridiculous. It's about opening your mind. You're the one who's telling yourself you're going to look ridiculous.
All right, with the encouragement and love. Whatever.
You know, I do it because I can.
Gotta have a jolly on here. You know what I mean? Always worth it. Okay. New section.
Yeah.
Apple has announced its new iPhone 12. And what do you think? Do you think it's a culture fire or fire ass culture that we'll always be talking about?
At this point, culture fire.
Yeah, I gotta agree with you. I've always been a Apple fanboy, let's say, for the longest time.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, I hated when Steve left us.
Yeah.
Because I get it. They're a company and they want to make money and they are just working with what the market is giving them, really. But I mean, they really don't have the innovation that I used to really enjoy about them. They really don't have the sort of, wow, I didn't know that was possible. Like it's really possible. I feel like there's companies now that are surpassing them in terms of like trying new things,
Mm-hmm.
and that sucks. I don't like. I'm still. Don't get me wrong. I fucking got the iPhone 12. Like
You did?
I'm not a hype beast. You know what I mean? Like I'm not saying that I'm better than anybody else, but it just I don't know. It doesn't feel. It feels not super great just
Really?
because it's like I don't know, like it doesn't when I got into Apple it was because it was the most efficient, it was the most uh easy to use. Like they really focused on the user experience, which
Mm-hmm.
now I don't think they're doing really as much.
Yeah.
And just little things like we're not going to give you a block for your charger type of thing. It's like whoever is getting the new iPhone doesn't have that. So it's like you can't
So you have to purchase it separately for $30?
pretty much, yeah. So it's like it it's kind of like what Microsoft was like in the 90s
Mm-hmm.
where they were just so big at the time, they just didn't care about their user experience and then that cost them the whole market.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Apple's going that same way and I hate that that's what I feel like that company is going toward. But I also get it in the sense of like they want to make money and to be honest, Apple's the new like supreme in terms of just straight branding. Like you don't have to give them anything. It's just even kids now are like, "Oh, you got AirPods? That means you're rich." And it's like that. No, it just means you have $150. That's not.
So there are no new features in the iPhone 12 from your experience, like from using it once you got it, that you were like, oh my God.
I haven't gotten it yet.
Oh, you
So
haven't got it yet.
for like another future episode, we'll probably get like the experience of me being like, oh, I mean, the camera's better, but really,
Yeah.
other than that, what are you going to do?
Yeah, no.
I saw a recap and I was very unimpressed by like it. The look looks very similar to an old iPhone that they had. I'm thinking right now, and I can't think of anything that stands out
Mm-hmm.
other than they have like a 7 lens camera, which cool for like a photographer that's like on the go, which, my girl Reina is really about. So that's why she's getting hers. But I've really, the last couple of years have been like, why am I going to get a new phone? They've really not been coming out with like a ton of anything that you really want.
No.
But
I upgraded to the 11 only because my last phone broke and I was upset. I was like, I do not want to get a new phone. I don't need it. The technology is the same. I love my phone though.
I mean, no, I fucking Jesus Christ, I can't go anywhere without my phone.
Who you telling?
Like I can't. Everything that I do with my life is on my phone. We weirdly hit a plateau where we're like, we can do everything on our phones now.
Yeah.
So like, really, what's the big deal? And I mean, I guess that brings me to what I was trying to say in the sense of like, we keep talking about how these screens influence us and how these like sort of stories and narratives make us think about the world. Is that should we be putting our phones down more?
Take a break from it. Take a break. People are so concerned about how they're going to come across. And I mean, this has been said a million times. People only sharing the good parts about their lives. And it's just one of those, like, now that I go through my Instagram feed, it's just like, what value are you adding to my life by posting this? Like, that's where I'm at, where I look through my feed and I'm like, what value are you adding?
Yeah.
And if you're not adding any value, I don't follow you. Or like but it's so much, and it's kind of sad to see when you know someone personally who puts up so many like, we're having fun. Me and my friends were having fun, and you know them personally, and you're like, I remember that night. That post is way more than the actual experience. If you tell me I was there with you,
it's just an encapsulation of what they thought the night was.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas where you were there, you were like, oh, you didn't seem that happy.
Or it wasn't that hype. Like, you know, have you ever seen somebody's Insta live video or Snapchat?
Yeah.
And you're with them, you're hanging out in that same event, and they're like, woo, showing you the one area of the room that's crowded with people, but don't pan out to the rest of the room that's empty. And it's just like the 8-10 people in front of them. I mean, it's like you're making it seem like you're in this packed house, or that this was like, yo, people were like jamming for hours when it was just 2 songs.
But that's kind of what I mean, in the sense of like, everyone's showing you this like little bit of what actually happened, like the best little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're going like, yeah, this was what the whole party was like. I don't know. I find people wanting other people to like think that they're doing great.
Yes.
No matter what's happening.
Yeah. Wouldn't it be dope if it was the opposite? Like, what if, right, check it.
Yeah.
What if on Instagram or whatever other platform or Facebook, people were actually real about their shit? Not in a I'm venting, but in a, you guys are on my friends list, and instead of texting all of y'all to catch up, this is my update on what's going on in my life. I bought a new home, or I'm having trouble with work, or whatever it is. And it's when you look through someone's feed, it's an actual update of their life. So you can actually check in on them. And if you see a post that wasn't so positive, you take the initiative to hit them up, be like, yo, what's good? But instead, everyone's just posting up the best 2 minutes of their lives and making it seem like it's a constant reality. And so no one's really checking in or being real with one another. And when something really pops off, you can't have that honest conversation of like, this is what's real. Like, this is what I'm really struggling with, or this is what my perspective of our situation, or anything, because folks can't handle it. Because it's just everything's perfect. We good. We good out here. We thriving. We balling. But you're not sharing those moments where you're struggling as well.
I didn't have the personality for that. I would put everything on you know what I mean? Like I would put everything on social where I'm just like, I'm having a bad day right now, or I'm, here's what's happening that like I don't like or whatever. And like that would always freak people out. Always freak people out. I just feel like I grew up in that generation where social media used to be actually that. It actually used to be social media where it was like you weren't being marketed to by a bunch of different people. It was like, oh, I'm actually interacting with these, this group of people or this. I mean, when I got on Facebook, it was still during the time where they only let in college students. So it was like real early on in like the whole Facebook thing. So like I never really looked at it as like a marketing platform or like a place to reach people with like some kind of like thing to sell or whatever.
Yeah.
But I just found like a lot of people really used it for that. And it's not wrong that they used it for that, but it's just not what I was sort of introduced to in terms of these platforms. You know what I mean? And I think these platforms have turned into very similar representations of what TV was like for us when we were little, where it's like you see this very idolized situation, this very like restricted reality almost. And I just worry, I'm like, am I restricting her enough? Am I restricting her too much? Am I don't know. Am I like one of those weird parents that's like, no, you don't watch TV now because I'm like trying to restrict her screen time a little bit more than usual, I guess.
Yeah.
Which isn't even that great because kids are annoying sometimes.
I don't have any, so I will.
Yeah, no, kids are, man, you love them because they're yours and whatever, but like kids are the worst. Time for the culture war. All right. It's a would you rather game where we basically talk about what we would rather do. Duh. Super dumb that I had to explain that to you, but you know. Would you rather be able to control animals, not humans, with your mind or control electronics with your mind?
I'm going to go with animals.
Really?
Because when I was a kid and I was watching Aladdin, I was like, how dope would it be to have a tiger as a pet? And I was very jealous of Jasmine. Do you know what I mean?
Okay. All right. I'm with you. I'm with you.
Oh, I think that would be amazing. Animals can't talk to you, but you can talk to them or like make them do things telepathically. You are connecting with the animal kingdom on another level.
I don't disagree with you on a spiritual level. I feel like yours is very like very connective, very spiritual and emotional. I'm gonna have to go the other way on that. I'm gonna have to go with controlling electronics.
Go ahead.
Just because I guess for me the main part of the questions was but not humans. Because I pick electronics because I think it's the best way to control humans. And low key, humans feel far less controllable than wild animals, which is a whole other thing.
Control human?
What?
You want to control human?
No, I want to control electronic. And that
Because
seems to be the closest way to low-key control humans, because they can't stop depending on their technology. Me included.
That's some foul stuff. So
I would not survive.
At somebody, you're just gonna just like,
wait. No, say that again. Say it again.
You're just gonna like, you're gonna do some little bewitched thing, like twitch your nose or look at it and like blink a few certain times to make a computer or something glitch. Then the person's like, "Oh, I can't."
Yeah, it'd be great. I'll like, anytime I want to like add something, I'll just be like, blink, blink to anybody's phone that's in the area, and they'll just be like, "Oh, okay, I gotta listen to this podcast now." I can just
imagine if you could do that and you're walking down the street and you like blink and you make people listen to the same song you're listening to on your
that would be wild.
On your AirPods?
Yeah, that would be.
WTF, what happened? They wouldn't see it coming.
Low key, I did it to my daughter. So I gave her my Spotify membership. And I'm sitting in bed and she's playing some song or whatever. Mm-hmm. The cool thing about Spotify is you can, depending on what device you're using it on, it'll turn off the device that it was previously playing on. So I like got up this one morning and just like she's in her room, like listening to music, enjoying her like Spotify thing because I let her use my profile. And I'm just like taking it off her phone, putting it on mine, changing the song and like throwing it onto hers. Like she doesn't know what's happening. And there was never like a point where I went, "Oh, you know that weird stuff that was happening earlier, baby, that was actually me." She just had to deal with like, "Oh, my phone is spazzing out and I don't know what to do."
So I imagine you're not going to tell her anytime soon.
No, not at all. Why would I tell her? There's no reason to do that. Then she knows what's happening whenever I fuck with her before. Like, if I decide at some point to be like, "Oh, I'm going to mess up her whole experience again," I don't want her to know what's happening.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but that is the most hilarious thing I've heard in a long time.
Well, ladies and gents, audience listeners, that's been another episode of Culture Nerds. We thank you for the support. If you have comments, suggestions, or stories, ideas, DM us at Instagram at culture_nerds. And we'll see you next week, nerds. Peace out.